The call came at 6:17 on a Tuesday morning. Before sunrise reached the frozen docks, I was alone in the Marina office, balancing payroll against a quarter that had gone worse than I admitted. Outside, 40 boats sat under gray winter covers. A woman from Lakefront Commercial Lending asked me to confirm a loan I had never requested, $1,800,000, she said. Secured by Harbor Heart Marina and its redevelopment rights. My pen stopped above the ledger, there is no loan. A pause. Keyboard clicks, our file contains your electronic authorization, Mrs. Hart. What date? January 12th. 11 days earlier. I had spent that Sunday at my grandson Owen's soccer game with Mara. Grant joined us for lunch afterward, the lending officer continued carefully. There is also a medical capacity statement recommending increased oversight by an adult family member. I looked toward the photograph of my late husband, Frank. We had built the Marina over 31 years, no doctor had ever questioned my mind, send me every document bearing my name. I'll need to alert the applicant that you dispute, not yet. Mark the file pending direct owner verification. Preserve every upload, login, IP address, call note, and original document. Speak to compliance before contacting anyone. Mrs. Hart, if you believe fraud is involved, I spent 18 years auditing county contracts. I know what happens when people learn they're being watched. I'll escalate it. Send the packet only to the Marina's registered email. When the call ended, my first instinct was to phone Mara. My second was to confront Grant, both would have been mistakes. Whenever I was afraid, I tried to control people. That habit kept the Marina alive after Frank died, but taught my daughter to hide problems until they became disasters, so I waited. The packet arrived 25 minutes later, the application named Grant's company as redevelopment manager and Harbor Heart Marina as borrower. My 51% ownership appeared beside a signature that looked convincing until I enlarged it. Then I recognized the flaw. Someone had copied my name from a 9-year-old dock repair contract. The narrow E and long hook in the H belonged to a signature I had changed after injuring my wrist. The medical statement described progressive confusion, misplaced records, repeated conversations, and unsafe behavior around machinery. It recommended temporary shared oversight by a family member. The provider's name meant nothing to me. There was no examination date or test result. I printed the pages and placed them beside Frank's photograph. Someone is trying to take the Marina, I said. At 7:30, Caleb Ross entered with a thermos and a heavy ring of keys. He had worked for us since 19 and still resented me for refusing to sell him a steak. Any contractors here Sunday night? I asked, not that I know of. Anyone ask for old contracts? Grant asked about the archive last week. Said he needed historical repair costs. Did you let him in? No. Told him to ask you. He didn't. Caleb studied me. What's going on? Nothing I can prove. That usually means something expensive. I folded the medical statement, don't mention this conversation. His jaw tightened. Someday, Evelyn, you're going to have to trust someone before the building catches fire. After he left, I checked the server. No recent downloads appeared. The office camera had gone offline twice that month for less than 20 minutes. Cold could explain it. So could someone timing a reboot. I saved the loan packet, email headers, and system logs to an encrypted drive. I wrote a timeline, then photographed my desk, computer cables, filing cabinets, and archive binders. When I finished, I put everything back exactly as I found it. At 11, Mara texted that she and Grant were bringing lunch. They arrived with lunch and Owen, who disappeared into the break room with his game. Mara still wore hospital scrubs. At 35, she had Frank's gentle eyes and my stubbornness. She had been sober nearly 6 years and fought hard to keep primary custody of Owen. I was proud of her. I had never learned how to say it without making it sound like an evaluation. You look exhausted, I told her. Nice to see you too, Mom. I meant you should rest. You always mean something kinder after the first sentence. Grant stepped between us, lunch first. Family argument later. He kissed Mara's temple and placed a polished binder on my desk. Grant was 39, calm and persuasive. Where I saw working docks, he saw apartments and investor returns. He opened the binder to glass buildings surrounding a smaller marina. This keeps Harbor Heart alive, he said. New seawall, improved utilities, better storage. You keep the name and repair operation. I trust contracts. Developers come and go. The city's window won't stay open forever. If we move now, this marina can stop bleeding cash. We had a bad quarter. You've had 6. Mara looked at me. He showed me the numbers. Our numbers. I own 24%. I'm allowed to see them. You're allowed to see them. You're not allowed to hand them to outsiders. Her expression hardened. He's not an outsider. Grant said nothing. I wanted to throw the forged medical report across the desk. Instead, I asked, what have you already agreed to? Mara glanced at Grant before answering, we're getting married. Owen's game chimed from the next room. When? February 14th. At the courthouse. Just us, Owen, and 2 witnesses. That's 3 weeks away. We don't want a big wedding. You've known him 10 months. There it is, she said. The investigation. I'm asking a question. No. You're opening another case file on my life. Grant rested a hand over hers. Evelyn, we hoped you would be happy for us. Then why tell me after the decision? Mara stood, knocking her chair against the wall, because every decision I bring you becomes a hearing. My job, my apartment, Owen's school, Grant. You don't talk to me like your daughter. You talk to me like an employee whose judgment has to be approved. The accusation hurt because it was true. My suspicion had protected the marina. Mara had grown up beneath it. Grant rose slowly. No one is asking you to surrender the business today. We're asking you to consider a partnership before circumstances make the choice for all of us. Circumstances, not the market. Not the city. Not cash flow. I noticed the word. He closed the binder. Mara called Owen, then stopped at the door. I'm not using again, Mom. I'm not falling apart. I'm allowed to build a life without proving every step to you. I know. But I said it too late. After their SUV disappeared, I locked the office and opened Grant's binder. The proposal referred to financing already under review and allowed operational authority to shift if the majority owner became medically unable to serve. I photographed every page. By 5, the marina was empty. Snow tapped against the windows while I opened the building security portal and filtered 30 days of badge activity. My office had an electronic lock. Only 3 active credentials could open it, mine, Caleb's, and Mara's. One entry appeared in the middle of the night, January 12th. 2:13 a.m., admin office, credential, Mara Hart. For a full minute, I stared at Mara's name on the screen. I listed every innocent explanation, a stolen badge, a system error, a contractor using the wrong credential, because the other possibility hurt too much. Then I checked the hallway camera. It had gone dark at 2:09 and returned at 2:26. No other camera had failed. I printed the record, sealed it with the loan papers, and drove to Mara's townhouse after her shift. She saw me in the driveway and asked, "Is Owen okay?" "He's at school. I need to ask you something." Inside, she started the coffee maker. "Why did your badge open my office at 2:13 in the morning on January 12th? Her hand stopped. I needed the insurance records. At 2 in the morning. I had just finished a shift. What records? The liability policy. Grant needed to confirm the environmental coverage. Why didn't you ask me? Because you would have said no. I used my own badge to enter a business I partly own. I didn't steal anything. Did Grant come with you or use my computer? No. Did you photograph anything with my signature? Her eyes moved away for less than a second. Then Grant entered with breakfast and read the room. Mara told me about the insurance documents, he said. When? That week. Before or after she went? Does that matter? It does to me. Mara stepped between us. This is why I didn't tell you. You shouldn't need permission to read company records, I said. You should need judgment. The word struck harder than I intended. Grant pulled a folder from his bag. Then this needs a decision. The cover read Emergency Modernization Agreement. His company would advance $250,000 for repairs. In return, Mercer Waterfront Partners would choose contractors, supervise safety, communicate with lenders, and manage redevelopment work for 90 days. Page 8 allowed Grant to assume temporary control if I became medically unavailable, with the consent of any other shareholder. Mara's 24% could activate it. This is a transfer of authority, I said. It's a bridge agreement, Grant replied. The marina needs repairs, and the city incentive expires in March. You would control the vendors and lender reports. Someone needs reliable reporting. He glanced at my papers. Do you have it? Mara opened the folder. We've talked about this. You discussed giving him control. Temporary control over modernization. There is no modernization until the owners approve it. You mean until you approve it? I own 51%. And you never let anyone forget that. I looked at her. Do not sign this. You don't get to order me. I'm warning you. You warned me about my apartment and said I couldn't handle the ER night shift. At the time, you had only been sober 8 months. Mara's anger disappeared. I've been sober almost 6 years. Whenever I disagree with you, you drag me back to the worst year of my life. That isn't what I meant. It is always what you mean. Grant placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to decide today. He said. But my investors do. Their commitment expires in 5 weeks. If we miss it, there may be nothing left for Owen except debt and contaminated land. Mara repeated quietly, nothing left for Owen. It sounded rehearsed. I pushed the folder back. My answer is no. Grant nodded. Then I hope you have another way to pay for what's coming. I left without apologizing. Shane followed me home. 2 days later, the hydraulic travel lift failed with a cruiser suspended above its cradle. Caleb stabilized it before anyone was hurt. The technician found a loosened pressure sensor and a clean cut in one control wire. Normal wear? Could be. Could be someone who knew where to use a blade. After he left, Caleb told me 3 unfamiliar men had been measuring the west yard. They said they work for Grant. I never approved them. Mara did. He showed me her email authorizing access to non-public areas. Grant was copied. Why didn't you call me? Caleb's jaw tightened. When I asked for ownership after 22 years, you told me access follows authority. Mara has authority. Not enough to send strangers into restricted bays. Put it in policy. Don't make me choose between you and your daughter. That afternoon, Grant toured the marina with 4 people in clean boots and expensive coats, describing apartments, restaurants, and a public walkway as if the property already belonged to him. Mara followed with a tablet. I watched from the repair bay. Grant saw me and raised 2 fingers. The next morning, I gave him a read-only folder of old utility bills, public inspection reports, and outdated vendor lists. Every file carried a hidden identifier so I could trace where it went. His reply arrived 11 minutes later. Thank you. This will help us move forward responsibly. I wanted him to believe I was bending. Then I called Priya's shop. Priya had worked with me in county procurement before opening a forensic accounting practice. I need invoice tracing and electronic signature analysis, I told her, family involved. I watched Mara cross toward Grant. Yes. Then preserve the original files and devices. Don't hire me if you only want confirmation of what you already believe. That's why I called you. She agreed to meet after hours. Before lunch, our insurer forwarded an anonymous complaint alleging missed safety meetings, unsecured chemicals, memory lapses, and orders to use damaged equipment. No employee was named. The wording echoed the medical statement: confused, forgetful, unsafe, someone was building a version of me one document at a time. Small failures followed. The fuel dock keypad stopped recording codes. A parts room freezer tripped. Payroll entries were altered and restored. None was catastrophic. Together, they made the Marina look unmanaged. Grant appeared daily offering vendors, consultants, and temporary supervision through his company. On Sunday, Owen built a model tugboat at my kitchen table while I made grilled cheese. "Are you mad at Mom?" he asked. "No. We disagree about work." "Then why don't we eat dinner together anymore? Adults sometimes need time." Grant says if you don't fix the Marina, Mom could lose what Grandpa left her. "Did he say that to you?" "He told Mom in the car. I was in back." That night, I heard my own sentence from Mara's kitchen again. "You had only been sober 8 months, Grant had not created the wound. He had learned how to keep it open." Freezing rain covered the west dock on Monday morning. I found the warning cones stacked inside the storage shed and carried them out myself. Near slip 14, my foot slid. I grabbed the railing, but the top section tore loose. I hit my shoulder and skidded toward the edge until one leg dropped over the black water. Caleb reached me first and pulled me back by my coat. A bracket had cut my palm. My shoulder burned, but nothing felt broken. Grant appeared with Mara and one of the people from his investor tour. He looked at the detached railing, then crouched beside me. "Evelyn, do you know where you are? Get away from me." Mara flinched. "Mom, he's trying to help." He asked whether I know where I am. "Because you fell." "Because the warning cones were hidden and the railing came apart." The investor raised his phone. I could not tell whether he was calling for help or recording. Mara lowered her voice. "Please stop. People are watching." "Good. Caleb can photograph the bracket before anyone touches it." Grant stood. "This is why the Marina needs professional safety management." I pointed toward the parking lot with my bleeding hand. "Leave." Caleb helped me stand. I looked toward the nearest safety camera. It was facing the parking lot instead of the dock. Someone had rotated the mount nearly 90 degrees. By noon, photographs of me on the ice had circulated. By 5, Mara sent a message using Grant's language. "Your refusal to accept temporary support is putting the Marina and everyone's future at risk." I did not answer. The next afternoon, while Priya imaged my computer, a process server entered. "Evelyn Hart." "Yes." He handed me a thick packet. The first page asked the court to restrict my Marina authority until I completed a competency evaluation. Attached were the complaint, photographs from my fall, the medical statement, and a sworn affidavit. I turned to the signature page. Mara declared that I had become confused, paranoid, verbally aggressive, and dangerous at work. My daughter had not merely chosen Grant's side. She had placed her name beneath the lie. I read Mara's affidavit until anger replaced the grief. Priya closed the laptop she had been imaging. "Do not call her. She lied under oath." She signed a statement. We don't know what Grant told her, what she believed, or what pressure he used. She called me dangerous. "And if you storm into her house tonight, he'll attach the police report to the petition by morning." I stood too fast, and pain shot through my injured shoulder. "She is my daughter. That is why you are not thinking like an auditor." The word stopped me. I had taught junior analysts never to confuse betrayal with evidence. Now I was ready to do exactly that. The hearing was the next morning. I sat beside Laura Bennett, an attorney Priya trusted, while Grant and Mara took the other table. Mara never looked at me. Grant's attorney requested temporary restrictions until I completed an independent cognitive evaluation. No new loans, property transfers, major contracts, or withdrawals beyond normal operating expenses without secondary approval. He called it a protective pause. Laura challenged the false medical statement and emphasized that no doctor had examined me. She presented my work history, current licenses, and the lender's notice that I disputed the loan. Grant's side answered with photographs from my fall, the anonymous safety complaint, equipment failures, and Mara's affidavit. Together, they made me look unstable. The judge studied me. "Mrs. Hart, will you submit to an independent evaluation?" "Yes." Then the court is making no final finding about your capacity. I am imposing narrow restrictions for 14 days. 14 days sounded harmless, then Grant's attorney produced the modernization agreement Mara had signed the previous night. Because Mara owned 24%, the agreement allowed Grant's company to assume temporary operational management during any restriction on the majority owner. I turned toward her. You signed it? Her answer was almost a whisper, I'm trying to keep the marina open. The judge did not give Grant ownership or approve redevelopment. She allowed temporary management under the existing company agreement, legally limited. Practically, I had lost control of the business Frank and I built. Outside the courtroom, I moved toward Mara. Grant stepped between us. Not here, Evelyn. I wasn't speaking to you. Mara finally met my eyes. You would have fought me no matter what I said. You could have spoken to me. I tried for years. Laura touched my arm before I answered. Grant was watching, waiting for me to prove his case, so I swallowed the words that would have helped him. I hope you understand what you signed. Her face hardened. I understand more than you think. Snow was falling at Harbor Heart. My code flashed red, my key turned halfway and stopped. Caleb appeared inside. For a moment. Neither of us spoke. Open it, I said. His eyes shifted toward Grant. Grant approached with a clipboard. The management agreement authorizes updated access controls. You'll receive supervised hours to collect personal items. The court did not bar me from my property. No. You remain an owner. Operational access is temporarily limited for safety. Behind him, a contractor removed the brass office plate Frank mounted 30 years earlier. Put that back. It's being replaced. A white panel leaned against the van. Mercer Waterfront Operations. Grant did not own the marina, but his name was already waiting. Employees crossed the yard without looking at me. Caleb came closer. I told them the plate should stay. Your operations manager. Not now. Everyone got an email at 6. We report to Grant's site director. Then help me challenge it. No, you know he staged this. I know you made every decision alone and called it responsibility. I know when anyone disagreed, you treated it like disloyalty. That has nothing to do with forged documents. It has everything to do with why nobody knows when you're protecting the marina and when you're just refusing to be questioned. I felt the familiar response rising. I owned the majority, carried the debt, and kept everyone employed. All true. None answered him. When Frank died, Caleb said. You stopped asking for loyalty and started demanding obedience. He walked away. I remained outside until snow covered my shoulders. That afternoon, the bank paused all business transfers above $25,000 because of the court order and competing management claims. Payroll and utilities could continue. Equipment purchases, vendor deposits, and legal payments required a second approval. Mara was the secondary approver. Then Tom Barlow called to move 2 fishing boats to another yard. We've served your family 14 years, I said. I know. But I can't risk my boats getting trapped in an ownership fight. It isn't an ownership fight. My insurance agent heard there were concerns about your capacity. By evening, 3 other customers had requested releases. Grant had made people afraid to trust me with the marina. The next morning, I entered during my supervised access window. A security guard followed me to the office. My key no longer fit the door. I had chosen that lock with Frank after a fuel desk theft in 1998. Now it rejected me. Inside, my photographs had been packed into a cardboard box. Red inventory seals crossed the file cabinets. Grant sat at my desk studying a map of the West Yard. You have 30 minutes. I need my contracts and ownership records. Business documents remain here. Your attorney may request copies. Several circles were marked near the repair bays and fuel dock. What are those? Preliminary soil tests. You do not have redevelopment approval. Investors require environmental estimates. Mara authorized the work. He said her name gently, inviting me to attack her. I refused. I packed my encrypted drive, personal notebooks, Frank's photograph, and the old brass office plate. Outside, a flatbed truck was carrying away our plate roller and 2 welding tables. The roller still works, I told Grant. It occupies valuable space. It belonged to Frank's father. That may matter to your family. It has no value in the project budget. Snow gathered on the steel as the truck pulled away. With no office, Priya and I moved into an unheated storage unit 6 blocks inland. It had 1 outlet, a folding table, 2 chairs, and a roll-up door that leaked wind. We worked in coats. Priya created forensic copies of my phone, laptop, and external drives. She documented every transfer and stored duplicate files in separate encrypted locations. Then she opened the maintenance ledger. 3 vendors were added in the last 6 weeks. North Basin Safety Services, Lakeshore Industrial Recovery, MKE Environmental Preparation. The companies had received payments between $18,000 and $42,000. Their invoices used different logos but identical formatting. Priya searched the registrations. All 3 are new. How new? 7 weeks, 5 weeks, and 39 days. Each listed a different suite number at the same commercial mailbox center. 1 phone was disconnected. The others led to generic voicemail. Grant's shell companies? Possibly. We need ownership records, bank tracing, or communications. She opened the invoice metadata. 2 files had been created on a computer named G. Mercer Dev. It was a connection, not yet proof of where the money went. What about the railing? I asked. The Marina camera was redirected, but your insurer may have stored a remote archive. Our liability carrier kept footage for 30 days after reported incidents. Laura sent a preservation request immediately. The next day, drilling equipment entered the marina. From the public street, I watched crews mark the frozen yard. Grant was moving before final approval. If his financing closed, the property could be tied up before I regained authority. Mara stood beside his SUV signing something on a tablet. I wanted to cross the street and demand that she look at me. Instead, I called Caleb. He answered after 6 rings. What? I owe you an apology. Silence. I treated your loyalty like something I purchased with a paycheck. I asked for your judgment only when it matched mine. Is Priya making you say this? No, what do you want? That is what I'm trying to change. I'm not asking you for anything. Across the yard, Caleb stepped out of the machine shop with his phone to his ear. He saw my car. I don't forgive you yet, he said. I didn't ask you to. Grant called his name. Caleb lowered his voice. They're rushing the environmental report. He wants preliminary numbers before Friday. Why Friday? I don't know. But they're moving equipment before the soil engineers document what was underneath it. That could change the samples. Yes. Grant called again, sharper this time. Caleb ended the call. Friday afternoon, the insurer released the archived footage to Laura under a confidentiality agreement. The video was grainy, but the timestamp was clear, at 4:36 on the morning of my fall. A white service truck entered through the west gate using a temporary contractor code. A man in a reflective jacket walked to slip 14 carrying an impact driver. He removed 2 bolts from the railing bracket, loosened a third, and carried the warning cones into the storage shed. Then he looked toward the camera. The logo on his jacket belonged to one of the new vendors paid from the Marina account, North Basin Safety Services. At 4:51, he climbed a ladder and turned the camera toward the parking lot. 3 hours later, I reached for that railing, and it came apart in my hand. The footage should have made me feel vindicated. Instead, I kept seeing Mara standing beside Grant's SUV, signing whatever he placed in front of her. Laura wanted to send the video to the court immediately. Priya advised waiting until the insurer authenticated the file and the gate access records were preserved. I agreed, though every hour Grant remained in control felt like another piece of the marina being carried away. That evening, a blocked number called my phone. I almost ignored it. Mom. Mara's voice was barely louder than the hum of traffic behind her. Where are you? Employee parking garage. Level 4. Are you safe? I don't know. The answer changed everything. I reached the hospital 20 minutes later. Mara waited between 2 concrete pillars beneath a flickering light. still wearing navy scrubs under her winter coat. Her hair was tied back carelessly, and purple shadows sat beneath her eyes. She did not hug me, neither did I. What happened? She held up her phone. I need you to look at something without taking it from me. That instruction landed exactly where she intended. Whenever Mara brought me a problem, I had a habit of removing it from her hands and deciding what happened next. I told myself that was protection. To her, it often felt like erasure. All right, I said. You hold it. She opened a message thread with Grant. Most of it looked ordinary. Questions about dinner. Reminders about Owen's school pickup. Updates from the Marina. Then she scrolled back 3 weeks. Grant had sent her photographs of old treatment notes, not complete records. Cropped screenshots showing the worst parts of her recovery, a missed counseling appointment, a relapse concern that had never been confirmed, and a nurse's observation written during the week Mara entered treatment 6 years earlier. My stomach tightened. Where did he get those? I don't know. He said someone involved in my old custody case sent them to him. Who? He won't tell me. The next message contained a draft email addressed to Owen's father, Ryan Walsh. Grant had attached the screenshots and written that Mara's recent behavior raised concerns about Owen's safety. The email had not been sent. Below it, Grant wrote, I don't want to involve Ryan. Sign the affidavit, help stabilize the Marina, and this stays between us. I read it twice. Mara scrolled farther. After she signed the affidavit, Grant wrote, you did the right thing. Evelyn will be restricted briefly, the business will recover, and then we can repair the family relationship from a safer position. You believed him? I asked. Her face closed. The question had sounded like judgment before I could stop it. I believed you would pass an evaluation, she said. I believed the restriction would last 2 weeks. I believed Grant would repair the lift, clean up the books, and give control back once the financing was secure. And if you refused? He said Ryan would use those records at the custody review next month. Old treatment records do not prove you are unfit. I know that now. You're an emergency room nurse. You should have known then. Her eyes filled, but her voice remained steady, and there you are. I wanted to defend myself. Instead, I let the silence sit between us. Mara looked toward the garage entrance. Every time I made a mistake, you kept the receipt. Even after I got sober, you watched me like the relapse was already scheduled. When Grant showed me those records, I didn't think, Mom will help me. I thought, if Mom sees these, she'll decide I can't handle Owen again. That isn't what I would have done. You don't know that. I did not answer because she was right. When Mara first entered recovery, I had taken over everything, her bills, medical appointments, transportation, and conversations with Ryan. I kept Owen with me for 4 months. Those decisions helped her survive, but I never fully returned the authority I had taken. Even years later, I still treated her stability like a permit I could revoke. I'm sorry, I said. Mara gave a tired laugh. For which part? For teaching you that asking me for help would cost you control of your life. The words hurt to say because they were true. She looked down at the phone. I signed the affidavit. I signed the management agreement. I entered your office. Did you forge my signature on the loan? Her breath caught. I copied it. The garage suddenly felt colder. Tell me exactly what you did. Grant said the lender needed proof that all owners had reviewed the redevelopment package. He gave me the old doc contract and told me to place your signature on a preliminary consent page. He said it was not a loan authorization and that you could replace it later. You copied my name knowing I had not approved the document. Yes. Did you upload it? No. I sent the page to Grant. Did you create the medical statement? No. Did you authorize a lien? No. I swear. Did you know he would use the signature on a financing application? No. I believed that she had not understood the full scheme. That did not make her innocent. You committed forgery, I said. I know. You helped him get inside my office and gave him company documents. I know. You signed a sworn statement calling me mentally unstable. Her face crumpled. I know. Part of me wanted to tell her none of it mattered because Grant had manipulated her. That would have been another kind of control, taking away responsibility because I could not bear to watch her carry it, so I said, being threatened explains what you did. It does not erase it. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her coat. I'm not asking you to erase it. For the first time since the hearing, I saw my daughter instead of the person who had betrayed me. I have footage from the morning I fell, I said. A contractor loosened the railing and moved the warning cones. Mara stared at me. Grant did that? A company connected to his invoices did it. We do not yet have proof he gave the order. He told me you staged the fall. Why would I stage an injury that helped him? He said you wanted to frighten the employees and blame his contractors. The lie was absurd. It had also been designed for a daughter already accustomed to believing her mother would do anything to retain control. What else has he told you? That the medical report came from a legitimate consultant. That the loan was only an expression of interest. That the money leaving the Marina account was paying emergency vendors. 3 of those vendors share a mailbox, and at least 2 invoices were created on Grant's computer. Mara leaned against the concrete pillar. Oh, God. I resisted the urge to tell her what to do next. What do you want? I asked. She looked surprised by the question. I want Owen safe. I want Grant out of the Marina. And I want to stop lying. Those goals may conflict for a while. I know. If you confront Grant tonight, he may send the records to Ryan, destroy evidence, or withdraw the financing documents before we can preserve them. What are you asking me to do? I'm asking what you are willing to do. Mara thought for a long moment. I can stop giving him information. Not suddenly. He will notice. I can answer without telling him anything useful. Can you preserve every message? Yes. Do not edit, forward, or screenshot them if the original application stores full metadata. Priya can explain how to export the thread properly. Mara nodded. And you need independent support, I said. Not me. Not Grant. Someone whose job is to help you think clearly. I called Daniel this morning. Daniel Reed had been her counselor during the final year of outpatient recovery. Mara still saw him occasionally when stress became difficult. He can document what I tell him, right? He can document appointment dates, your condition, and disclosures you authorize him to share. He cannot secretly build a case for us. I understand. We should have Laura explain the limits before you consent to anything. Mara gave me a faint, exhausted smile. You almost sounded like you were giving advice instead of an order. I'm practicing. We needed a way to communicate that would not alert Grant if he saw her phone. Mara suggested using Owen's science project. If she texted that Owen needed blue poster board, it meant Grant was nearby and she could not speak freely. Green poster board meant she had new information but was safe. Red meant immediate danger. If I asked whether Owen had finished the model bridge, I was asking whether Grant had requested more documents or signatures. It felt ridiculous until I remembered that Grant had already used her custody fears, her recovery records, and our damaged relationship as weapons. Before we separated, Mara caught my sleeve. Mom, I am sorry. I know. No. I need you to hear the whole thing. I was angry with you before Grant. I wanted to prove you were wrong about me so badly that I trusted the first man who agreed with everything I said. When he told me you were controlling me, it felt like he understood. He understood where to apply pressure. That doesn't excuse me. No, she nodded, accepting the answer. I don't know whether you'll ever trust me again. I don't know either. It was not comforting. It was honest. 2 days later, Mara attended a session with Daniel and signed a limited release allowing Laura to confirm only the date of the appointment, Mara's reported fear of retaliation, and the existence of threatening communications she had shown him. Daniel kept no secret recordings and made no accusations about Grant. His value was that Mara had disclosed the threats before any public confrontation. Priya helped Mara export the message thread to an encrypted drive. The metadata showed that Grant had edited the draft email to Ryan 4 separate times. Each revision became more severe. In one version, he claimed Mara had resumed using drugs. In another, he suggested Owen had been left alone overnight. Both claims were false. Grant had not been gathering evidence, he had been manufacturing choices. For 3 days, Mara played her role carefully. She answered his questions about me with vague frustration. She told him I was still angry and distracted. She signed nothing. When he asked whether I had contacted Caleb, she said she did not know. Then Grant accelerated the wedding. He moved the courthouse appointment from February 14 to February 6. 8 days earlier, Mara called me from Daniel's office. He says the marriage will protect us from you. How? He says once we're married, he can help me defend my ownership interest and keep you from punishing me financially. Has he mentioned Owen? He already contacted a private school in Wauwatosa. He says Owen should transfer after the wedding so you can't interfere. The Speed told me Grant sensed her pulling away. Do not agree in writing. I already told him I would consider it. That was smart. There was a pause. Mom, I almost believed him again. Believing someone for a moment is not the same as obeying them. That evening, Mara brought Owen to my house, claiming Grant had an investor dinner. Owen ran upstairs to find a model boat Frank had given him. Mara and I sat at the kitchen table with the old doc contract, blank paper, and the financing documents. She showed me how Grant coached her to copy my signature. He said to start with the E because that was the hardest part. Then he told me to stop thinking of it as your name and treat it like a shape. Did he watch you practice? Yes. How many attempts? Maybe 12. What happened to the practice pages? He put them in his briefcase. That mattered. Practice pages could connect Grant directly to the forgery. I photographed the contract from every angle and marked where the copied signature had originated. Mara wrote a factual account in her own words, including what she had believed at the time and what Grant had told her. I did not correct her sentences, I did not tell her which details sounded useful, it was her statement. A thump came from upstairs. Owen. Mara called, I'm okay. We found him in the guest room beside an open duffel bag. Clothes had been packed inside, school uniforms, winter gloves, medication, 2 books, and the stuffed dog Owen had slept with since preschool. Mara froze. I didn't pack this. Owen looked confused. Grant did. He said we might stay somewhere fun after you get married. Where? He wouldn't tell me. He said it was a surprise. Inside the front pocket was a printed enrollment checklist from the private school Grant had contacted. The emergency contacts section listed Grant first. My name did not appear anywhere. Mara sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the bag. He was going to move us. Maybe, I said. We document before we assume. She looked at me sharply, then understood, you really are practicing. The following night, Mara texted, green poster board, we met in the hospital garage again. Grant had left his laptop open while taking a call. Mara had not searched through his files. A mail window was already visible on the screen. She photographed one unsent draft because her name appeared in the subject line. The email was addressed to Grant's investors and outside counsel. Subject, post-closing ownership consolidation. Mara enlarged the photograph. After financing and temporary control were secured, Grant planned to challenge her 24% interest using breach of duty claims tied to the forged signature and unauthorized office access. He intended to argue that Mara's actions exposed the company to liability and made her unsuitable as an owner. The proposed settlement would force her to surrender her shares in exchange for Grant not reporting the forgery during Owen's custody review. Mara read the final paragraph aloud. Once Hart's interest is removed, Mercer Waterfront Partners will control all voting authority necessary for disposition of the property. Her voice went flat. He was going to use my crime against me. Yes. He made me do it so he could take my shares. I looked at the photograph again. Grant had never planned to share the Marina with Mara. He had planned to leave her without the property, without leverage, and too frightened to tell anyone how he got it. The email gave us a motive. It also gave us a problem. If we confronted Grant immediately, he could claim the draft was only a contingency plan, withdraw the loan package, delete records, blame the shell company payments on accountants, and tell investors he had been deceived by Mara. We had fragments of misconduct. What we needed was one final submission connecting all of them. Laura read the photographed email at Priya's folding table while wind pushed through the storage unit door. He intends to use Mara's signature forgery as leverage after closing, she said. That supports coercion, but a photograph of an unsent draft will be attacked. Grant can say Mara misunderstood it or created it herself. Mara sat with her hands wrapped around a paper cup. I didn't. I believe you, Laura said. A hearing officer, lender, or investigator will still require authentication. Then we need the laptop. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. We do not steal it, copy it, install anything on it, or ask Mara to search through private files. Priya nodded. Good. Because unlawful access could damage everything we have. Mara looked ashamed. I already entered Mom's office. And that will have to be disclosed, Laura said. We build a case that survives the truth. We do not build one that requires hiding your part. Mara lowered her eyes. I wanted to comfort her. Instead, I said what she needed more. You made serious choices. Grant counted on your fear keeping you silent about them. The only way he keeps that power is if you continue hiding. What happens if I tell the truth publicly? I don't know. Could Ryan use it against me? Yes. Could I lose my Marina shares? Grant may try. Could I lose my nursing license? Laura answered carefully. Copying a business signature is not automatically a professional licensing matter, but false statements. Criminal charges, or findings about dishonesty can create consequences. We cannot promise you there will be none. Mara stared into her coffee, so telling the truth could still cost me everything. It could cost you something, I said. Grant is threatening everything because he needs you too frightened to risk anything. She looked at me. I don't know if I can testify in a room full of people. You do not have to become fearless. What do I have to become? Truthful. The independent evaluation took place the next morning at a clinic chosen from a court-approved list. I went alone. The psychologist, Dr. Helen Alvarez, spent nearly 3 hours testing memory, attention, reasoning, language, judgment, and executive function. She asked about the accident, the business dispute, Frank's death, my relationship with Mara, and why I believed Grant was committing fraud. I brought no evidence except the court order. When she asked whether I had made mistakes in managing the conflict, I could have blamed Grant for everything. Instead, I told her I had treated my daughter's recovery like a permanent reason to doubt her. I admitted I often interpreted disagreement as disloyalty. I explained that my fear of losing the Marina had made me rigid long before Grant arrived. Dr. Alvarez made no visible reaction. At the end, she asked, "What will you do if the evidence proves your daughter acted willingly?" "I will hold her accountable." "And if it proves she acted under coercion?" "I will still hold her accountable. I will also help her get free." 3 days later, Laura received the report. Dr. Alvarez found no evidence of cognitive impairment, dementia, psychosis, or inability to manage financial and business decisions. My scores were normal for my age, with above-average performance in attention and executive reasoning. Laura wanted to file it immediately. I asked her to wait. Every extra day Grant controls the Marina creates more damage, she warned. I know. Then why delay? Because his entire package depends on claiming I am impaired. If he learns that claim is dead before final submission, he will change it. Priya turned from the transfer map she had taped across the storage unit wall. He may withdraw the medical statement and call the earlier filing a misunderstanding. Exactly. Mara looked disturbed. We're going to let him submit something we know is false. We are not allowing the lender to fund it, Laura said. We can notify Compliance Counsel confidentially that Evelyn has completed the evaluation and disputes all representations. The lender can freeze further disbursement while still accepting the final package for review. What about the city? The Redevelopment Authority's Council can receive a preservation notice without being told our full strategy. Grant will still be responsible for every statement he certifies. I looked at the wall. Priya had drawn 3 vendor boxes in black marker. North Basin Safety Services, Lakeshore Industrial Recovery, and MKE Environmental Preparation. Payment arrows ran from the Marina project account to each company. New red arrows now led from those vendors back toward Mercer Waterfront Partners. How certain are you? I asked, certain enough to explain the path, not yet to accuse him of theft. After Grant obtained temporary management authority, Lakefront Commercial Lending had released a restricted due diligence advance of $180,000. The money could be used only for environmental testing. Emergency safety repairs, engineering estimates, and financing costs. Grant paid nearly $140,000 to the 3 new vendors. North Basin then paid a consulting fee to Lakeshore. Lakeshore paid MKE Environmental for project coordination. MKE Environmental transferred $62,000 to Mercer Waterfront Partners under a development reimbursement agreement created 2 days after the lender released the advance. The money traveled in a circle, Mara said, most of it, Priya replied. Each company kept a percentage. Mercer received the largest portion. Who owns them? On paper, 3 different people. One is Grant's former project manager. One shares an address with his outside bookkeeper. The third company is registered to a man who died 4 months before it was formed. Mara looked up sharply. How can a dead person own a company? He cannot. Someone used his identity or filed false registration information. Priya placed 3 invoices beside one another. The emergency railing repair was billed at $38,000. The replacement hardware cost less than $900. North Basin billed 26 labor hours before the company's own registration date. And Grant submitted these to the lender? I asked, not yet. They appear in the draft cost schedule. If he includes them in the final certified package, he adopts the figures. That was why we waited. Grant needed the city's redevelopment approval to satisfy his investor's option agreement. His deadline was March 28. If the authority did not approve the financing structure by then, the investors could walk away and demand repayment of their bridge funds. He had less than 2 weeks. Pressure would force him to choose between abandoning the project and certifying the false records. At the marina, he behaved like a man who had already won. The old brass plate had disappeared. In its place, workers installed a 12-foot redevelopment banner across the front fence. Harbor Point District, luxury residences. Public waterfront. Modern marina. The Hart name appeared nowhere. Grant arranged a small press event beneath the banner. He stood beside Mara and told local business reporters that the project would rescue an unsafe, outdated industrial property and create hundreds of jobs. Mara smiled when cameras turned toward her. From across the street, I saw how much it cost her. Grant placed one hand against the middle of her back, guiding her closer whenever she drifted away. To everyone else, it looked affectionate. To Mara, it was a reminder to stay inside the frame. That night, she sent me a photograph from her bedroom. The courthouse dress hung against the closet door. It was simple, cream-colored, and still carried the store tag. Grant wanted her to wear it in 4 days. She wrote, he asked whether I was nervous. I said I was tired. I replied, that was enough. A minute later, she sent, I bought this because I thought I was starting over. I stared at the message before answering, you still can. Just not with him. Mara did not respond. The next morning, Caleb called from a pay phone near the interstate. I can't use my cell. Why? Grant's site director demanded everyone install a workforce app. It tracks locations and backs up work messages to their server. Did you install it? On the company phone. Not my personal one. What is happening at the marina? He was quiet long enough that I heard trucks passing behind him. The environmental crew found petroleum in the West Yard samples. The marina had stored fuel and repaired engines for decades. Some contamination was expected. The redevelopment budget included cleanup reserves. How serious? Serious enough to add $600,000, maybe more, to excavation and disposal. Did they report it? Grant told them the samples came from the old machine shop trench, not the redevelopment footprint. That is false. I know. He ordered us to change the location labels before the lab pickup. Who is us? Me, 2 maintenance workers, and the environmental contractor. Did you change them? No, did the others? One did. The other refused and Grant sent him home. Caleb's breathing sounded uneven. I photographed the original labels beside the sample jars. I also kept the first chain of custody sheet. That document belongs to the Marina. I know. Do not take anything else. You think I stole it? I think Grant will say you did. Give it to Laura through a documented transfer. You always talk like everyone works for you. The old anger in his voice returned. I closed my eyes. You are right. That silenced him. I am not asking you to risk your job because I deserve loyalty, I said. I am asking whether you are willing to protect the workers and the Marina from false environmental records. What happens after this? If we regain control? Yes. I looked at the brass plate leaning beside Priya's table. You asked Frank and me for an ownership opportunity years ago. I dismissed it without building a real path. You said family ownership stayed in the family. I was wrong to treat the people who built the Marina as temporary. Caleb said nothing. If the business survives, I want an employee ownership plan. Not a gift to you and not payment for evidence. A structured path based on years of service, performance, and independent valuation. No single owner should be able to make decisions like this alone again. You're promising me shares because you need a witness. No. Laura will put in writing that your cooperation and any future ownership discussion are separate. You should have your own attorney review it. Why would you do that? Because I finally understand that protecting the Marina by keeping all control in one set of hands made it easier for Grant to take. A truck horn sounded near him. I'll deliver the documents tonight, he said. Caleb left the original chain of custody sheet with Laura's investigator at a staffed shipping center. The transfer was photographed, logged, and witnessed. He kept no originals. The document showed the contaminated samples came from the redevelopment footprint. The revised version in Grant's project file placed them 60 yards away. Grant's projected cleanup cost was understated by at least $500,000. That false figure made the deal appear profitable. By the following Monday, the final financing package was almost complete. Grant requested Mara's electronic confirmation that she still supported temporary management and the redevelopment application. She called from Daniel's office. What do I do? Tell Laura exactly what he requested. I already signed the affidavit. If I refuse now, he'll know. Laura reviewed the form. It did not require Mara to certify the cost figures or medical statement. It only confirmed that her earlier affidavit remained on file and that she had not formally withdrawn support. Can she sign it? I asked. She can acknowledge that the affidavit remains filed, Laura said. She should not state that it is true today. Mara amended the confirmation with one sentence. My prior affidavit remains part of the pending court record, subject to my right to supplement or correct it. Grant objected, then he accepted it because his deadline mattered more than the wording. We notified Lakefront's compliance attorney that evidence of forgery, coercion, false vendor costs, and manipulated environmental records would be presented at the authority hearing. The lender froze any additional draw but did not alert Grant. The authority accepted the final package at 4:42 on Friday afternoon. Grant certified that all financial statements were accurate. He certified that contractor relationships had been disclosed. He certified that environmental estimates reflected known site conditions. He attached the false medical statement, the manipulated safety history, the inflated invoices, the altered sample locations, and Mara's original affidavit. Scattered lies became one signed representation. At 5:10, Grant sent a company-wide message, financing package accepted. Final authority hearing Wednesday. The Harbor Point district is moving forward. Someone photographed him opening champagne beneath the redevelopment banner. I remained silent. For 4 days, he celebrated the trap he had finished building around himself. On Tuesday evening, Mara stood in my bedroom wearing the courthouse dress. She had come to return Owen's packed bag and wanted to know whether the dress should be preserved as evidence. It isn't evidence, I said. Then why did I put it on? Maybe you needed to see that it no longer belongs to the future he planned. She looked at herself in the mirror. What if I freeze tomorrow? You may. What if I cannot get the words out? Then take your time. What if everyone thinks I am lying to save myself? Some people will. Her eyes met mine in the mirror. You're not making this sound easier. I promise to stop controlling the truth for you. She removed the dress, folded it carefully, and placed it back in the garment bag. At 9 that night. Laura confirmed that the hearing remained scheduled for 10 the next morning. Priya packed the transfer charts, the insurer authenticated the sabotage footage, Dr. Alvarez signed a declaration confirming her evaluation, Daniel prepared to verify Mara's earlier disclosure without revealing unrelated treatment details. Caleb was supposed to meet Laura's investigator at 7 in the morning with the original environmental work orders and the names of the employees instructed to change the labels. At 6:12, he did not answer. At 6:40, his wife said he had left home before dawn. At 7:05, Laura's investigator called. Caleb had never arrived. I drove toward the marina while Mara called hospitals and Priya checked whether his phone had connected to the workforce server. At 7:18, a message appeared from Caleb's personal number, "Do not call me. Grant knows there is a whistleblower. Grant knows there is a whistleblower." The message stayed on my screen while traffic crawled toward downtown Milwaukee. Mara read it from the passenger seat. Is he in danger? I don't know. Should we call the police? With what? A vague text and a missing appointment. Laura called before I could answer. Caleb's wife had reached him briefly. He was alive, but he refused to say where he was. He told her Grant confronted him before dawn, Laura said. Grant knew someone preserved the environmental records. Did Caleb admit anything? No. He left the marina and shut off both phones. Then we go forward without him. Mara turned toward me. Those work orders were the strongest proof of who changed the samples. They were strong evidence. They were never supposed to be the only evidence. At 9:22, we entered the Redevelopment Authority building carrying 3 document cases and more uncertainty than I wanted anyone to see. Grant stood near the hearing room doors with his attorneys, investors, and 2 city consultants. His dark suit fit perfectly. His presentation team had built a scale model of Harbor Point District, complete with miniature apartment towers, trees, and a public walkway along the water. He looked like a man arriving to collect something already promised to him. When he saw Mara beside me, his expression changed for 1 second, then the smile returned. Mara, he said. We need to speak privately. No, you don't understand what Evelyn is doing. I understand enough. Grant lowered his voice. Think about Owen before you make an emotional decision in public. Mara's hands tightened around her folder. I wanted to step between them. I wanted to tell Grant that using my grandson's name would be the last mistake he ever made. Instead, I stayed where I was. Mara answered for herself. I am thinking about Owen. She walked past him and entered the hearing room. The authority chamber had no witness box and no jury. It was a long public room with fluorescent lights, a raised panel for the 5 commissioners, and a projection screen large enough to make every document impossible to ignore. Reporters filled the back row. Marina employees occupied one side. Grant's investors sat behind him on the other. Through the windows, the redevelopment banner across the marina fence was visible in the distance. The wind coming off the lake had torn one corner loose. Every few seconds, the banner snapped against the metal posts. The hearing began at 10. Grant spoke first. His presentation was calm, polished, and almost convincing. He described Harbor Heart as a failing industrial property burdened by outdated equipment, environmental uncertainty, and unstable management. He showed photographs of rusted storage sheds, cracked pavement, and me lying on the icy dock after the railing failed. He did not show the missing bolts. He called the redevelopment a rescue. The marina has historical value, he said, but history alone does not pay employees, remediate contaminated soil, or protect the public. Our proposal preserves maritime operations while replacing unsafe infrastructure and creating long-term economic value. One commissioner asked why the majority owner opposed a plan that supposedly saved her business. Grant's attorney stood. Mrs. Hart's resistance must be understood in light of documented concerns regarding her recent judgment and capacity. The false medical statement appeared on the screen. My name sat beneath words describing confusion, repetition, paranoia, and declining executive function. Mara's affidavit followed. Grant's attorney read the most damaging sentences aloud. My daughter had reported that I became hostile when questioned, forgot prior conversations, and created safety risks by refusing assistance. Around the room, heads turned toward me. Grant looked at Mara as if reminding her that those were her words. The authority chair, Commissioner Elaine Porter, addressed Laura. Does Mrs. Hart dispute the capacity concerns? Laura stood. Yes. We are submitting an independent court-approved cognitive evaluation completed by Dr. Helen Alvarez. The screen changed. The false medical letter remained on the left. Dr. Alvarez's signed evaluation appeared on the right. The contrast was immediate. The first document had no examination date, no testing data, and no explanation of its author's qualifications. The second contained 3 hours of standardized testing, clinical observations, and a direct conclusion: no evidence of cognitive impairment or inability to manage business and financial affairs. Grant's attorney objected that the evaluation occurred after the reported incidents. Commissioner Porter asked, was the earlier medical statement based on an examination? No examination date appears in the document, Laura said. Was Mrs. Hart ever a patient of the listed provider? No. Has the provider agreed to appear today? No. Grant leaned toward his attorney. The first crack in his presentation was small, but everyone saw it. Laura called Priya next. Priya did not accuse Grant of theft. She did something more effective. She explained the numbers. The first spreadsheet showed the lender's restricted advance of $180,000, the second showed payments to North Basin Safety Services, Lakeshore Industrial Recovery, and MKE Environmental Preparation. The third traced the money between those companies and back to Mercer Waterfront Partners. Grant's clean presentation remained open behind her until Priya connected her laptop to the projector. For a moment, his development forecast froze on the screen, then the transfer map replaced it. Black arrows showed money leaving the Marina account. Red arrows showed it moving through the vendors. A final red line returned $62,000 to Grant's company. Priya enlarged the invoice metadata. These invoices use different company names and logos, she said. However, several were created from a computer identified as G. Mercer Dev. 2 vendors were formed after the work they claimed to have performed. All 3 use registration information connected to Mercer Waterfront Partners or its service providers. Grant's attorney rose. Connected does not mean controlled. That is correct, Priya said. Which is why I have not stated that Mr. Mercer legally owns all 3 entities. You are presenting speculation as fraud. No. I am presenting payment records, metadata, registration dates, mailing addresses, and transfer agreements. The authority can determine what those facts require. One commissioner asked about the $62,000 reimbursement. Priya displayed the agreement. It was created 2 days after the lender released the advance. It describes prior development costs, but the supporting cost schedule includes work billed by the same vendors that transferred the money. So the restricted advance partially returned to the project manager. Yes. Grant took a pen from his attorney and wrote something hard enough to tear the paper. Priya then showed the railing invoice. North Basin had billed $38,000 for emergency safety work after my fall. The company's own footage showed one of its contractors creating the emergency before dawn. The insurer's authenticated video began without sound. A white service truck entered the west gate. The contractor removed bolts from the railing. He carried the warning cones into the storage shed. He rotated the camera away from the dock. Then the screen showed me reaching for the railing hours later and dropping toward the water. No one spoke when the video ended. Grant's attorney recovered first. There is no evidence Mr. Mercer instructed that worker to sabotage anything. Laura answered, that is correct. The footage establishes deliberate sabotage by a contractor paid through the project account. Further investigation is required to establish who authorized it. Grant sees the opening. A rogue contractor may have created a hazard to inflate his own repair bill. I did not order it, know about it, or benefit from Evelyn being injured. I watched Commissioner Porter study him. You benefited from the incident being used as evidence of Mrs. Hart's instability. Grant's voice remained controlled. I relied on information available to me at the time. The hearing could still have ended as a disputed accounting matter. Then Commissioner Porter turned to Mara. Ms. Hart, your affidavit is central to the temporary management arrangement. Do you continue to stand behind it? Grant did not look at her. He stared straight ahead, trusting fear to keep her seated. Mara's folder trembled against her knees. For several seconds, she did not move. I wanted to tell her she could do it. I wanted to tell the commissioners why she was afraid. I wanted to stand and pull every word out of her before Grant could take more. I kept my hands folded. Mara rose. She walked past Grant to the public testimony table. When she sat down, he finally looked at her. Commissioner Porter reminded her that the proceeding was recorded and that knowingly providing false information could have consequences. I understand, Mara said. Is your affidavit accurate? Parts of it describe real arguments between my mother and me. The conclusions are not accurate. Grant's attorney stood. Ms. Hart, you signed the affidavit voluntarily. I signed it. Were you physically forced? No. Did your mother become angry when you supported redevelopment? Yes. Did she question your judgment? Yes. Did she refer to your history of substance use during an argument? Mara swallowed, yes. Grant's attorney looked toward the commissioners. Then the affidavit reflected genuine concerns. It reflected things Grant told me to interpret as mental decline. The attorney stopped. Mara opened her folder. Grant obtained private records from the worst period of my recovery. He prepared an email to my son's father claiming I had relapsed and was unsafe. He told me he would send it before my custody review unless I signed the affidavit and helped him gain temporary control of the Marina. Grant stood. That is a lie. Commissioner Porter struck the desk with her gavel. Mr. Mercer, sit down. Mara continued. I entered my mother's office using my employee badge. I copied her signature from an old contract. I believed I was signing a preliminary redevelopment consent. I knew she had not approved it. That was wrong. The room became painfully quiet. I sent the signature page to Grant. I did not create the medical statement, authorize the loan, or know he would attach the signature to a $1.8 million financing application. Grant's attorney approached carefully. You admit committing forgery, and now you are blaming my client to protect yourself. I am not protecting myself. You could lose your ownership interest. I know. You could face a custody challenge. I know. You could damage your professional career. I know. Yet you expect this authority to believe you suddenly discovered a conscience on the morning financing might be approved? Mara looked toward Grant. No. I discovered I was also part of his plan. She submitted the photograph of Grant's draft email to investors and outside counsel. The subject line appeared on the screen, post-closing ownership consolidation. Mara explained how Grant intended to use the forgery and unauthorized office access to force her to surrender her 24% interest after financing closed. Then she submitted the threat messages concerning Owen's custody. Grant's attorney attacked the photograph's authenticity. Laura responded that the original device and email account should be preserved for forensic examination. Daniel confirmed only what he was permitted to confirm. Mara had disclosed the threats during a counseling session before the hearing and before she publicly withdrew support from Grant. The timing mattered. Grant changed tactics. He stopped presenting himself as Mara's protector and began presenting her as unstable. She has a documented history of addiction, he told the commissioners. Her mother has controlled her for years. Now they are rewriting events together because Evelyn cannot tolerate losing authority. Every word contained enough truth to make the lie dangerous. He described my parenting as financial domination. He said Mara feared disappointing me. He claimed I used Owen and the Marina to keep her dependent. My chest tightened. I wanted to tell the room how many nights I had cared for Owen while Mara fought to survive. I wanted to explain every bill I paid. Every court date I attended, every time I found my daughter barely conscious and prayed she would live until morning. Commissioner Porter asked me whether I had used Mara's recovery history against her during business disputes. Yes. Grant looked almost pleased. Did you often make decisions without consulting the other owners? Yes. Did you deny Mr. Ross an ownership opportunity after decades of service? Yes. Grant's attorney leaned forward. So Mr. Mercer did not create resentment inside this family or business? No, then your claim that he manipulated everyone is simply an attempt to avoid responsibility for your own conduct. I could feel anger pushing toward my throat. I answered only the question. My conduct created vulnerabilities. It did not create forged financing documents, staged safety incidents, hidden vendor relationships, or false environmental records. The attorney tried again. You expect us to believe you calmly investigated while everyone around you independently concluded you were unstable? I expect the authority to evaluate the records. He had wanted shouting. He had wanted a controlling mother who could not tolerate being challenged. I gave him dates, documents, and nothing else. At 12:18, the hearing room doors opened. Caleb entered beside two investigators carrying sealed evidence bags. His work coat was unzipped. And there was dried blood near one cuff. I stood before I could stop myself. He shook his head once, telling me not to interrupt. Commissioner Porter called a recess while Laura spoke with the investigators. 10 minutes later, Caleb took the testimony table. Where have you been? The commissioner asked. Grant confronted me at 5:30 this morning. He knew I copied the original environmental work orders. Grant's attorney objected to the word confronted. Caleb corrected himself. He blocked my truck near the machine shop and asked whether I intended to destroy the project. He demanded my personal phone. When I refused, his site director tried to take it. We struggled. I left. Why didn't you contact Mrs. Hart's attorney? I believed my phones were being tracked through the workforce system. I drove directly to the State Financial Crimes Office listed on the lender's preservation notice. The investigators had received the original work orders, chain of custody sheet, photographs of the soil samples, and company messages directing workers to change the location labels. Caleb identified Grant's instructions. The original records placed contaminated soil inside the proposed apartment footprint. The revised records moved it outside the project boundary and reduced the estimated cleanup cost by more than $500,000. Grant's attorney asked whether Caleb expected Evelyn to reward him with ownership. No, did she promise you an ownership path? She said she intends to explore an employee plan if the Marina survives. Her attorney documented that it was separate from my evidence, and I was advised to obtain my own counsel. You have been resentful toward Mrs. Hart for years. Yes. And now you are helping her. I'm helping the people who would be working above contaminated ground if those labels stayed changed. A representative from Lakefront Commercial Lending requested permission to address the panel. She announced that the bank had suspended the credit line, frozen all undisbursed funds, and referred the application to its fraud and regulatory teams. Grant turned toward the investor row. Two representatives were already standing. Their counsel spoke quietly to him, then addressed the authority. The investor group was invoking the fraud and material misrepresentation clause in its option agreement. All additional funding was suspended pending investigation. Grant's face changed, not panic, calculation. He looked toward the exits, then his laptop, then Mara. Commissioner Porter called the panel into a closed consultation. When they returned, the decision was narrow and devastating. The authority postponed the Harbor Point redevelopment application indefinitely. It referred the financing records, medical statement, contractor payments, safety footage, and environmental documents to the appropriate state and federal regulators. It made no criminal finding, it declared no one guilty, but without lender financing, investor support, or Mara's continuing consent, Grant's temporary management authority under the modernization agreement terminated immediately. Harbor Hart Marina's existing ownership structure remained in place pending the separate court proceeding. Grant's attorney asked for a 7-day administrative transition. Commissioner Porter denied it. Mr. Mercer's company may preserve the property and records but may not authorize new expenditures, remove equipment, alter access controls, or destroy documents. Outside, the loose corner of the redevelopment banner finally tore free. The words Harbor Point folded into the wind and slapped against the fence. Grant packed his laptop while his attorneys argued in whispers. Mara stood beside me but did not touch me. Neither of us called it a victory. The Marina was damaged. Customers were gone. The court restrictions had not yet been formally dissolved. Mara had admitted to copying my signature in a public hearing. Consequences were only beginning. Grant reached the hallway and found 4 investigators waiting. One handed him a preservation order covering his laptop, phones, cloud accounts, company servers, vendor communications, and financial records. A second order applied to Mercer Waterfront Partners and every contractor connected to the Marina project. Grant read the first page. Then he looked back at Mara and me. For the first time since he entered our lives, he had nothing prepared to say. Grant's silence did not last. By noon, his attorneys called the hearing a temporary setback. By 4, his investors removed him from every Harbor Point decision. Mercer Waterfront Partners entered restructuring soon after. None of that reopened my office. The preservation orders produced no instant criminal ending. Investigators examined the forged signature, altered environmental records, contractor payments, and Caleb's account. Reviewers focused on the lender application and restricted funds. Grant remained free, while his lawyers disputed intent, and no one knew whether charges would come in months, years, or at all. His investors removed him from management, but that was a contract remedy, not a conviction. I wanted a clean ending. What we received was slower, records secured, witnesses interviewed, and consequences moving through institutions. After Laura filed the hearing record and Dr. Alvarez's evaluation, the judge dissolved my restrictions and ended Grant's temporary authority. I returned to Harbor Heart on a Monday morning. The banner was gone. Equipment sat misplaced, records filled boxes, and soil markings covered the west yard. Caleb met me at the gate with the old brass office plate, found it behind the demolition dumpster. A scratch crossed the word heart. "We can polish it out," he said, "leave one mark." 2 mechanics raised a ladder. The drill whined, the plate settled against brick, and the name Frank and I chose 31 years earlier returned above the door. My old key no longer fit. Grant's people had replaced every lock. Caleb offered me a temporary ring. I gave it back. Inventory every key. Log every copy. Nobody gets unrestricted access because of a title, including me. That's new. It should have been old. Regaining control felt less like victory than cleanup. 14 customers had moved their boats. We had 5 weeks of payroll left. The railing, lift, soil cleanup, and another $37,000 in questionable charges could take years to resolve. I called every customer who left. I said management had returned, independent reviews were underway, and I understood if they waited. One had already signed elsewhere. I wrote his name on a list labeled Earn Back. Mara did not return to the Marina. She kept her hospital shifts and cooperated with investigators. She corrected her affidavit, separating what she observed from what Grant told her and what she no longer believed. The correction did not erase the first affidavit. Coercion did not erase the copied signature. Lakefront demanded reimbursement for forensic costs tied to the forged page. Laura negotiated a civil agreement requiring Mara to repay a manageable amount, preserve evidence, cooperate with lawful inquiries, and acknowledge what she had done. There was no dramatic arrest and no declaration that she was innocent. Licensing officials found no connection to her nursing work. She kept her job and license, along with the payment schedule and consequences. Our first family counseling session was worse than the hearing. Nina Foster asked us to describe the conflict without explaining each other's motives. She stopped both of us within minutes. I admitted using money, housing, and help with Owen as proof that I deserved influence over Mara's choices. Mara admitted hiding problems because disappointing me felt more dangerous than deceiving me. I said her affidavit hurt more than losing my keys. She said my suspicion made Grant's praise feel like freedom. Nina gave us one rule: no unrequested rescue. I could listen and ask whether she wanted advice, but I could not call, pay, or solve anything unless she asked. 3 nights later, Mara called. Ryan wants an extra weekend because of the investigation. My first impulse was to call Laura. Instead, I asked, "Do you want help thinking, or do you need me to listen?" "Listen." So I listened. Nothing was solved, but she told me the truth before making a decision. That was new. Grant contacted us through counsel in early March. Mercer offered to return equipment and fund repairs if we signed a confidential settlement. Withdrew licensing objections, and stayed within the existing hearing record. The money could cover repairs and nearly 3 months of payroll. Priya said we needed it. I did not answer immediately. What happens if we refuse? More litigation, Laura said. More cost. Possibly less recovery. And if we accept? We stabilize faster, but the silence clause may restrict employees and future cooperation. Can we settle the property claims without selling silence? We can counter. We offered to release specific claims if Mercer returned property, funded verified repairs, preserved records, and cooperated with investigators. We would refer questions to the public record. We would not promise silence. Grant rejected it. 2 days later, the restructuring trustee accepted most of it, the equipment returned damaged, and the fund covered the railing and lift inspection, but not our lost business. It was a lawful agreement, not humiliation. Reporters wanted the torn banner and Mara's humiliation. I refused. The record was public, and Owen did not need her worst decisions turned into entertainment. Grant had controlled us through shame. I would not rebuild by selling more of it. By mid-March, the original sign had been repaired except for the scratch Caleb and I kept. Customers returned slowly. A retired couple returned. A charter captain booked 1 month. Tom Barlow walked the yard without his boat. I'm not ready, he said. I understand. But I might be. I wrote that beneath his name on the earn-back list. Mara removed the courthouse dress from her closet. She returned it, accepted the reduced refund, and used the money for the first installment of her civil repayment. When she told me, I almost said I was proud. Instead, I asked, how do you feel? Embarrassed. And lighter. I understand both. Near the end of March, Owen returned to the Marina. Is this still ours? He asked. It belongs to several people, I said. We're changing how they take care of it. Caleb lowered a repaired training boat into the basin. Owen wore a life jacket, and I sat behind him while Mara watched. Small movements, I said. The boat keeps turning after your hands stop. Owen overcorrected and sent us into a slow curve. I messed up. You noticed and adjusted. The second turn was smoother. When we returned, Mara reached for the line. I let her take it without correcting the knot. It held. Caleb waited outside the office. I handed him a new key ring containing every building key. You said nobody gets unrestricted access. The system logs every entry. Financial files require 2 approvals. Major records cannot be changed by 1 credential. So what am I getting? Responsibility that matches the work you already do. And the ownership path? Ready for review. That evening, employees, family, and independent advisors gathered in the repair bay. I presented a governance plan, not a favor. My 51% would reduce over time. Mara's 24% would remain hers. The existing family trust's 25% would become an employee and family stewardship trust. Employees could earn units through service, safety, performance, and independent valuation. Caleb would enter first, but an employee committee, not me, would review advancement. The trust would gradually hold 25% of future ownership. No owner could pledge the Marina, approve a major loan, transfer redevelopment rights, or change operational control alone. Major transactions would require 2 ownership groups and an independent, conflict-free trustee. Electronic signatures would require verified devices, live confirmation, and permanent audit logs. A claim of medical incapacity would require an independent examination, notice to every owner, and an appeal process. Mara read the final page. You could still outvote me on normal business. Yes. So this doesn't make us equal owners. No. It makes the rules visible. Ownership can be earned or purchased through the same process. I will not give you control to repair us or withhold opportunity to control you. That may be the first business answer you've given me without making it personal. Caleb tested the office key. The lock opened on the first turn. I looked at the people Frank and I once expected to trust us simply because our name was over the door. We nearly lost this place because too much authority could move through one signature, one relationship, and one frightened person, I said. That ends now. Outside, the Harbor Heart sign caught the last light over the basin. The scratch remained visible across our name. I did not see damage that needed hiding. I saw a record of where control failed and where shared responsibility began.